Hey guys, it's Emma. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I am going to be talking about my August wrap-up, all the books I read in August. I'm going to give you guys the stats. I'm going to tell you guys every single book I read and all my thoughts on it, my rating, all of that. So let's get into it. So we're going to talk about some stats first. So the total number of books I read in August was 5. I read a total of 2,132 pages, and the average rating for this month was 3.5. So it wasn't a terrible month. I definitely could have had some better books, but it wasn't a bad month. So let's get into the books specifically that I read and all my thoughts on them. So we started off this month very, very strong. This was the best book I read this month, one of the best books I've read this year, and that is Reckless by Elsie Silver. This is the 4th book in the Chestnut Spring series. It's about Theo and Winter. Basically, Winter, I don't really know what I can say that's not a spoiler, because you learn a lot about Winter in the first book, Flawless, because she is Summer's sister, which is who the first book is about. So basically, Winter is going through some stuff with her, ex-husband, I guess, and you see that a lot through the first book, but obviously you get more in-depth details because this is her book, so you see a lot more of that in this book. She is going to Chestnut Springs to try and get closer with her sister, because her and her sister don't have the best relationship, and there's also a lot of stuff like that you hear about their parents and stuff that goes to why they're not that close. And then you have her and Theo, who Theo, as soon as he sees her, is absolutely obsessed with her. He is like not backing down. He's like this huge flirt. If you guys don't know, Theo is a bull rider, and in the first book he is, why am I forgetting the guy in the first book's name? Rhett, that's his name. So Rhett from the first book is also a bull rider, and Theo is like his prodigy. He's training him, so that is Theo. But Theo is automatically obsessed with Winter as soon as he sees her, and that really just got me, because the way he was acting, like, I just think about this man and I want him so bad, honestly, because from the start of the book, he is not scared to show how he feels about Winter, and obviously she's like this cold-hearted person. Like, she's like, oh my god, just be quiet, like, you're just flirting with me for no reason, like, please go away. And he's like, ooh, like, she's kind of feisty, I like her. So he's not drawn back by her at all, and he sees a different side of her than everyone else. Everyone sees her as this like cold-hearted person, but he sees it as no one's ever treated her correctly, and he wants to be that person. So you see that throughout the whole book, and it's honestly the cutest book ever. My rating on this book was 4.75 stars. I'm literally still debating. I'm gonna be debating until like the end of this year if I should give this book 5 stars, because it was just so good. This man was just yearning to be with her, and he was obsessed with her. I will read a quote he said in this book, and it says, "Drunk on the sound of laughter flowing from a woman who has spent far too long feeling sad." Like, just that quote alone explains the whole book. Like, all he wants is to make her happy. He's finally doing that, and just seeing that for him is making him happy, and literally all he wants is for her to be happy. Like, he doesn't even care about himself. Oh, I don't know if I said this book is like accidental pregnancy trope, and in the beginning I was a little confused how it was gonna go, because I didn't really like how it was going in the beginning, but it quickly got solved and it was understood, so that literally was solved very quickly. But this man, he was just perfect. He was so reassuring, just the best man anyone could ever have. So this book was so good. If you have not read the whole series, I suggest you do, but this book especially is probably my favorite book in the series, right next to Heartless, but this book probably takes the cake. Then the next book I read on my Kindle, and it was Finn Rhodes Forever. This was the last book in the Queen's Cove series by Stephanie Archer. If you guys don't know, I have been loving Stephanie Archer, and I've been wanting to get through kind of all her books, because I think the first book I read by her was Behind the Net, and then I read the book that came after that, which I absolutely loved, and I can't remember the name now. Yeah, I can't remember the name now, but Behind the Net is part of the Vancouver Storm series, but I did start the Queen's Cove series, and I finally got to the last book. I was kind of disappointed by this book, but I feel like when it always comes to the last book, people are disappointed, which is so sad, but I just feel like everyone always looks forward to the last book, and then it's just kind of let down. So basically, this book is about Olivia and Finn. They were best friends when they were kids. They were next door neighbors. They had always been really close until something happened, and they just never spoke again. And you don't know what happens until I think it's like towards like the middle of the book you find out. You basically see them going through that. Olivia's like, I can't stand him, I don't want to be anywhere near him. But then Finn is always the type to come back to the town and leave, because he's an adrenaline junkie, and it's told that throughout the whole story. And he's finally back, and he's deciding to stay there. He's not gonna leave anymore, and she doesn't even believe him, because she's like, that's what he says, but like he's gonna end up leaving. He's staying. He's trying to win her back. He's like, I don't understand why she doesn't want to talk to me, but that's okay. I'm just gonna get her back. And she's like, no, I don't want to be anywhere near you. One thing about this book was I feel like it moved way too quick. I feel like she kind of forgave him way too quickly, especially after everything we saw in the 2 books, mostly the 2 books before this, that she was like, we don't talk about him, we don't mention his name, like, I don't want anything to do with him. And then all of a sudden he comes back, he does a few things, and she's kind of already down bad for him. And it's like, I get it, but girl, play a little hard to get. Like, I was kind of waiting for them to at least have some tension. Like, there was not really any of that tension because they got kind of close again so easily. I don't know, that part of the book I didn't really enjoy. Olivia was much more invested than Finn. I feel like Finn kind of just came back and he was like, I'm gonna get her back, and that's just what's gonna happen. And he was like really cocky with it. Like, he kind of knew he was gonna win her over and he wasn't gonna have to do much work, and he kind of didn't. So it kind of just messed up the whole thing because he just got really cocky with it. And not like cocky, but like he was really confident that he could win her back, and he did. And then also at the end, when she finally expresses her feelings, because at the end of the day, she was the one that was like done dirty in the situation that happened. And when she expresses her feelings, his response was absolutely terrible. And it just disappointed me because obviously she's the one that was hurt in the situation, so I expected him to be like, oh my gosh, like she's expressing herself. I feel like throughout the whole book, it was kind of like she was trying to win him over, and I kind of didn't like that. But I feel like I am kind of hating on the book. I do have a soft spot for this series, and there were some funny scenes in this book. I ended up giving this book 3.25 stars, so not really in the middle. I give it a little bump up because I do have a soft spot for this series, and I love this series. I love the setting. It is so cute. It's the best for like summer reads, but also it'd be cute in the fall time, I think, too. So if you have not read this series, I suggest you do, because I love Stephanie Archer. I love her writing. Yeah, that was this book. I actually read this book and Reckless in a reading vlog. I think it was How Much Do I Read in a Week or something like that, a mood reading vlog. So yeah, that's that book. So the next book I read was Things We Left Behind by Lucy Score. I finally got to this book. I actually had made a TikTok and it was like, I have to read this book in August, so I committed to that and I finally read it. Obviously I was terrified by this book because it was so thick. It was the last book in the Knock 'Em Out series, and this book is about Lucian and Sloane. They have this like enemies to lovers situation going on, and you see it throughout the first 2 books, how they like absolutely despise each other, and everyone's like, why do you not like each other? But both of them agree like, we're not talking about it. So you have no clue what's going on between them until you get to this book, and I loved reading and finally knowing about what happened between them, and all of it just makes so much sense why they kind of don't like each other, but also why they can't stay away from each other, because, you know, you can't blame them after you find out what happens. Obviously, I don't know if you guys know, but in Lucy Score's book, she always has this kind of crime aspect, and there's a lot going on with that in this book, but I'm still happy that we got a lot of the romance, because that was what I was most excited for. I didn't really care too much about all the crime that was happening in these books, and I feel like that might be what kind of bumped down this book and the last book, because I did really like the first book. I think Things We Never Got Over was my favorite. Things We Hide from the Light I enjoyed, but not as much as the first one, and then this one I did enjoy, but I don't know if I enjoyed it more than the last 2. Even though I was so excited to read about Lucian and Sloane, I just don't know if I enjoyed it as much. I ended up giving this book 3.5 stars, so not terrible, but also not the best compared to the other books that I rated them. I think I rated them in like the 4-star range, kind of. I did still really enjoy this. Again, seeing Lucian have such a soft side when it comes to Sloane, and he wants no one else to see it. He doesn't even want her to see it, but he can't resist it, and just being in both of their heads, it solved so much for them and for me to read about, because I was like, finally, we know what's happening and we kind of understand their feelings. There is so much tension in this book, which I absolutely enjoyed, because obviously when it's like an enemies to lovers situation. And I feel like in this book they have a right to be enemies to lovers, because usually in romance books it's like, are you guys really enemies or do you guys like just not like each other? But in this book I feel like it kind of makes sense for everything that happened for them to kind of act like that with each other. The only thing is Lucian is a very toxic man. He was making me blush, but like probably for the wrong reasons. And honestly, if I was Sloane, I'd probably like cry if I was in this man's like vicinity. Like, he is kind of very mean, and obviously it's entertaining to read about because Sloane herself, she can handle it. I don't know, if I was Sloane, I'd be like crying. Like, I wouldn't want this man, I'd be scared of him. So that was another thing that I was like I'm kind of scared. But I'm happy I finally was able to read this book and to get to it. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Things We Left Behind. So the next book I read was Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. This book, it focuses on a lot of heavy topics. The girl in this book, what's her name? Brianna. Yes, so Brianna in this book, she kind of has trust issues. Jacob has anxiety, so you see that throughout. I think it's like from the beginning of the book, you automatically kind of know what's going on between them and like within themselves. But Brianna and Jacob, they're both doctors. Jacob has just moved to where Brianna works, and Brianna wants to get this position, and Jacob has been put to get in the position. He didn't really ask for it. So Brianna starts and she automatically hates him. She's like kind of showing that she doesn't like him, and Jacob's kind of confused, so he ends up writing her a letter, and they go back and forth with these letters, and she feels terrible because she's like, this is the best man I've ever met. Like, why is he so nice to me? And that's how they kind of start this friendship going on. Then, with how close they're getting, one of Jacob's close friends that works where they are working asks him, like, we should check, like, your kidneys to see if it's a match for Brianna's brother, because Brianna's brother has some sort of kidney disease, something like that, and he needs a kidney donor. So they asked Jacob to check his, and turns out he's a perfect match. And it says this all in the back of the book. He decides he's going to give Brianna's brother his kidney, and she's like, what can I do in return? Like, is there anything I can do? And they start fake dating because Jacob has this own situation going on with his family, and he wants his family to think he has a girlfriend and that he's fine, he's settled. So they start fake dating. Brianna starts being his fake girlfriend. So obviously you see that throughout the whole book. My rating for this book, I'm so sad and so scared to say my rating because everyone loves this book, but I gave this book 3.5 stars. It's still not a bad rating, but everyone gave this book like in the 4-star range, like even 5 stars, and I just did not enjoy it that much. I felt like Jacob was a really, really sweet guy, but at times, actually no, Jacob was a sweet guy. I really did like him. He had me giggling sometimes. I liked the characters in the book. I just feel like the romance, I did enjoy the romance. It was just the miscommunication that really got me, and I was kind of just stressed out over it. But then it's like, I feel bad being stressed out over it because obviously he has anxiety, so he's always like kind of overthinking like what he should and shouldn't say. And then Brianna has trust issues, so whenever he does say what he says, she doesn't believe him. That whole like back and forth kind of went on like from the middle of the book all the way to the end, and it just kind of had me stressed. I didn't enjoy reading it because I was just like, oh my gosh, just talk to each other and you guys will know what's happening. You guys will have everything settled if you guys just talk to each other. Yeah, I was just stressed out with the miscommunication. But again, if they communicated better, I would have liked this book a lot more because I did enjoy the romance. I thought Jacob was the sweetest human being ever. He's actually probably one of the best book boyfriends I've ever read. He's just very, very thoughtful. He does things because he wants it to benefit her, not because it's like, oh, if I do this, she'll like me. He kind of just does it because he wants to, and I mean, that's what every man should do. But just reading about it and seeing it in like his point of view, it was just the sweetest thing ever. And their romance was really cute. Yeah, I think it was just that miscommunication that had me stressed out and obviously bumped it down a couple ratings. But I would still recommend it. Obviously, this is a very popular book, and I feel like I'm the only one that's rated this like in the 3-star range. Those are my thoughts on this book. And then the last book I read this month, I read on my Kindle. It's another book by Stephanie Archer called The Heartbreak Rule. This book, it was kind of random. It's not in a series or anything. I didn't even know she had another book. I was kind of just looking at her, like I clicked her name, and it was like other books this author has published, and this book was under there, so I was like, wait, how fun, I want to read it. So I decided to read it. It was a quick, fun little read, And it's basically about, I can't even remember the names. That probably says a lot. Whatever, I can't remember the names. But basically the girl main character is a comedian and the guy main character is her best friend's ex. Stay with me now. Basically, where the female main character, it does her comedy shows, it kind of broke down. There was like water leaking everywhere. So the male main character, he owns a theater, but she absolutely hates him because of what she thinks that he did to her best friend. She just didn't like him. But he's offering the theater and they have nowhere else to go. So they're like, I guess we'll just work in your theater. We'll do the comedy shows there. And they start to get a little bit closer because they're working in the same place. And she starts to realize that what her best friend told her isn't necessarily true. And what he is telling her is the truth. So she's like, damn, he didn't really do her dirty. So then they start, you know, growing something. They're kind of keeping it secret from everyone because she feels like it's wrong and he kind of doesn't want to mess up what's going on with their whole, you know, work situation. So they just don't tell anyone. And I gave this book 2.5 stars, and I will tell you right now. So most of their connection, I feel like it was pure lust. I didn't really feel a strong connection between these characters. I just felt like they just wanted to have someone to be with, and that's kind of what it was. I didn't feel any connection between them. Maybe just like the rush of like, oh, being secretive. And also, I remember the best friend's name. I remember the best friend's name because I've been in that situation. Her name was Katie in this book, and she's a better woman than me. She is a better woman than me. And I'm not going to give spoilers, but I guess if you want to call this a spoiler, I guess. But don't read this book, so you guys shouldn't care that I'm giving you a spoiler. When they told her, like, the situation that was going on, she was like, oh, okay, like, that's fine. Like, I'll just get used to it. And they were like, really? And she was like, yeah, like, it's okay. Katie is a better woman than me. This has happened to me before where a best friend has gotten with an ex of mine, and reading about it was just triggering. Like, seeing it all from their point of view, like, at least, I don't know, at least if they had a connection, like if they had something strong going, maybe. But it was all just pure lust. Like, I feel like they just wanted to be secretive with it. Like, didn't like the situation. The thing is that, which I kind of see why Katie was like, okay, like, whatever. And it's because when Gemma, that was her name, Gemma. How did I forget that? That's basically my name. When Gemma approached her and told her everything, Katie was like, I know you don't fall for guys that much. So the fact that you're telling me this, like, it does mean a lot. You see that from the beginning of the book that, like, Gemma doesn't like any men. She's like, no, I don't like any of you. So when Katie sees that, like, this is important to her, she's like, okay. But still, like, I don't know, crazy. Better woman than me. There was also a third act breakup that I absolutely hated. But yeah, that was kind of everything about that book. Yeah, I still love Stephanie Archer. I'm so excited for her third book in the Vancouver Storm series to come out. It's called The Wingman. It's coming out this month, September, I'm pretty sure, like towards the end, and I'm so excited for it because it's about some characters we've been waiting for. I'm hoping it doesn't disappoint because, like I said, it's always the third or like the last book in a series that like messes it all up. But I will say I'm so excited for that book, so it has not ruined Stephanie Archer for me. Again, this was a random book I found. It wasn't in a series or anything, so maybe that's why. I don't really know. Those were kind of all my thoughts on that book. But those are all the books I read in August. I'm hoping I will be able to stick to 5 books in September. You know, still be able to read a lot. I have started school, so I don't know how much time I'm gonna have on my hands to read, but hopefully I'll still be able to, because if you saw my TBR for September, I am actually really excited about it. I have Hopeless on there, Wild Love, and those are 2 books that I definitely want to get to, because Wild Eyes, which is the second book in that new Rose Hill series, I think it already came out. Okay, what's happening? Yeah, I think that book already came out, so I really want to finish Hopeless and Wild Love to then get to Wild Eyes. Yeah, I do have a lot that I want to read, so hopefully I'll have time to do that this month. But if not, it's okay. As long as I read like 1 book, I think I'll be fine, because I love reading. I love it. So yeah, thank you guys for watching this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to give it a like, subscribe, turn on your post notifications so you know when I post my next video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!